In a lively city called Sunville, there was a woman named Amara. She was very beautiful, with a bright smile, a tiny waist, and curvaceous body that caught everyone's attention. Because she was so pretty, every man in Sunville wanted her, and many women wished they could be as beautiful as she was. As she walked through the streets of Sunville, everyone would look at her because she was so beautiful. Cars would hoot for her and men would bump into things distracted by her beauty. Amara was well known not just for her beauty, but for her troubling hobby. She enjoyed the attention of married men, specifically targeting those with wealth and status. Her actions had broken many homes, and while many disapproved, she wore her reputation like a badge of honor. One could hear the whispers at the market as she passed, tales of families she had torn apart. There was once a gossip about Mr. Okoye, a successful merchant known for his good business. He was a happy man with a loving wife and 3 children. But one day, he met Amara. Amara's beauty was so striking that Mr. Okoye couldn't stop thinking about her. Soon, he started visiting Amara often, giving her many gifts, pretty dresses, shiny jewelry, and even expensive perfumes. Each time he visited, he spent less time and money on his own family. His wife noticed that their home had fewer things, and the children would often ask, "Where is Daddy? Why doesn't he play with us anymore?" One day, Mrs. Okoye found Amara in her bedroom with her husband. She felt helpless as a housewife. She fought Amara, eager to kill her, but her husband came in between, shielding Amara, who was smiling scornfully at Mrs. Okoye. Later on, Mrs. Okoye decided to talk to Amara. She went to Amara's apartment and said, "Please, Amara, think about my children. They miss their father. We all do." Amara looked at Mrs. Okoye and simply replied, "It's not my fault your husband likes me. Maybe you should ask him why." Mrs. Okoye felt very sad hearing this, and she returned home, hoping that one day her husband would see how his actions had hurt his family. Many times, the wives of the men she charmed would find Amara in their bedroom, and they would beg her to stop interfering in their marriages. They pleaded with her to let their husbands remain faithful. However, Amara would coldly dismiss these pleas. She showed no sympathy or remorse for the pain she caused. Instead, she replied, "Why are you speaking to me about this? It's your husband who promised to be loyal to you, not me. He's the one breaking his vow. You should be talking to him, not me." Amara lived her life without worries. She often visited her lovers' homes without being invited, just to annoy their wives. So one day, Amara heard stories about Chief Obi and his wife Angazi, a couple famous for their great wealth and strong influence in the community. The more she heard about Chief Obi's success and charm, the more she wanted to win his affection. She saw him as the most valuable prize she could pursue. Amara often saw Chief Obi and his wife Angazi arriving at parties in the latest, most expensive SUVs. Each time, her eyes would widen with desire. She admired not only the luxury vehicles, but also the respect and attention the couple received wherever they went. This sight sparked a deep longing in Amara. She wanted to be like Angazi, envied and pampered. As Amara watched Angazi step out of a luxurious car, a spark of jealousy flared within her. She thought to herself, "Angazi isn't so special. If Chief Obi can buy such fancy cars for her, why shouldn't he do the same for someone as beautiful as me?" This thought made her even more determined to win Chief Obi's favors, wanting to enjoy the same lavish gifts that Angazi received. During a large community event, Amara decided to approach Chief Obi, her dress clinging to her like a second skin. Her laughter was ringing clear, drawing many eyes to her. When she spoke to Chief Obi, he was immediately charmed by her, and they began to chat eagerly. Across the room, Angazi watched them with a calm face that showed no emotion, making it hard to guess what she was thinking. In the following weeks, Amara and Chief Obi were seen together often. They would talk, laugh, and spend time in each other's company, which made Amara feel victorious. She believed she was successfully pulling Chief Obi away from his wife. To try to upset Ngozi, Amara would make sure to show off how close she was getting to Chifobi whenever Ngozi was around. However, Ngozi didn't react with jealousy or anger. Instead, she simply smiled in a serene and knowing way that confused Amara. "What's your secret?" Amara once asked her during a particularly bold encounter. "How can you be so calm?" "My dear," Ngozi replied, her voice smooth and even. "There are things in life that require understanding beyond what we see. All will be clear in time." As time went on, Amara's relationship with Chifobi grew closer in a very short time. Chifobi, who once enjoyed going to clubs and social events with his wife Ngozi, began taking Amara instead. Amara felt triumphant, happy she had finally won him over. One day, to her delight, Chifobi even took one of Ngozi's luxurious SUVs and gave it to Amara. Brimming with pride, Amara boasted to her friends about the gift and showed off the expensive vehicle. She also used the money Chifobi gave her to travel overseas with her friends, living a life of glamour and luxury. Chifobi had always kept one rule very clear in his relationship with Amara. He had never been intimate with her. This was a limit he did not talk about, but always followed strictly. This made Amara want to win his heart even more. However, one day, while she was with Chifobi, Amara made a careless remark. She began to speak poorly of Ngozi, criticizing her and trying to make Chifobi see his wife in a bad light. This angered Chifobi greatly. "How dare you speak of my wife like that?" he exclaimed, his voice thick with fury. "If you ever disrespect Ngozi again, or even mention her in a bad way, you will regret it. Understand?" With that, he stormed out, leaving Amara stunned and frightened. For the first time, Amara found herself in a position where she felt the need to apologize repeatedly. She had never begged a man before, but the fear of losing her luxurious lifestyle and the realization that Ngozi might ultimately win made her desperate. She called Chifobi every day, apologizing and pleading for his forgiveness. After a tense week, Chifobi finally forgave her. They met in Amara's apartment, where she knelt before him and promised, "I will never disrespect your wife again." Chifobi accepted her apology, but the incident left a bitter taste in Amara's mouth. Later, still unable to understand what Chifobi saw in his wife, Amara vented her frustration to her friends. "I just don't get it. She's not even pretty," she complained angrily. One evening, under a beautiful full moon, Chifobi held a grand all-white party at his beach house. The setting was breathtaking, with the ocean gleaming under the moonlight, tables laden with delicious food, and glasses clinking with fine champagne. Ngozi, Chifobi's wife, was also there, looking elegant and composed. From the balcony, Ngozi noticed Amara close to her husband. With a sly smile, she raised her champagne glass towards them in a toast. Seeing this, Amara felt a surge of rivalry and silently vowed to herself, "Tonight, I will win over her husband completely." As the clock neared midnight, the party had dwindled down and many guests were tipsy, including Amara. Chifobi guided the staggering Amara to one of the bedrooms. In the spacious, luxurious bathroom, he helped her into the bathtub, saying, "Let's get you cleaned up." After a while, Ngozi joined them. Together, they gently wiped Amara dry with a towel and then carried her to a bed wrapped in red bedding. They laid her down gently, and then both of them retreated to a couch far from the bed, locking the door behind them. The room still echoed with the distant sounds of party music, but inside, it was just Chifobi, Ngozi, and Amara. Chifobi and Ngozi, dressed in their pristine white clothes, sat quietly as they watched the clock hands move towards midnight. As it struck 12 o'clock, they began to hum and chant softly, an eerie and rhythmic sound filling the room. Suddenly, from a large clay pot in the corner, a huge python emerged. It seemed to know exactly where to go, slithering directly towards the bed where Amara lay. The snake curled up with her, and after sleeping with her, it returned to the pot. Chifobi and Ngozi quickly closed the pot and pushed it through a secret red door in the room. They then left the room quietly, leaving Amara fast asleep. The party continued into the early morning, and later, Chifobi returned to sleep next to Amara. When Amara woke up, she felt unusually tired and had no memory of the night's true events. Chifobi, lying beside her, smiled and said, "You had quite the night." Amara believed they had shared a special moment, completely unaware of the strange and mystical happenings orchestrated by Chifobi and Angazi. However, what Amara did not know was that Chifobi and Angazi shared a secret that bound their marriage with a strength that was uncommon. In their pursuit of wealth, they had consulted a dibia, a traditional healer, who advised them that their prosperity was tied to a ritual. This ritual required Chifobi to find different beautiful women. He had to bring beautiful women to a special ceremony under the full moon. This ceremony was for Ekwensu, meaning a trickster god. Ekwensu was represented by a snake. Ekwensu would satisfy himself with the woman as part of the ritual, and in return, Chifobi would receive great wealth. However, there was a strict rule: no one outside the ritual could learn about Ekwensu. If the secret was ever revealed, it would lead to terrible consequences. To ensure their continuous success, Angazi, secure in her marriage and her role in the ritual, saw Amara not as a threat, but as a means to an end. After the beach party, Chifobi began to pull away from Amara. He stopped answering her phone calls, which left her feeling ignored. Meanwhile, Angazi sometimes heard from her friends that they saw Chifobi with a very beautiful woman at a club, which made her upset. As Chifobi distanced himself, Angazi confronted Amara while she was shopping with her friends. Accompanied by her bodyguards, Angazi approached Amara and, in front of everyone watching, embarrassed her and took back the SUV she had once allowed Chifobi to give to Amara. Feeling helpless, Amara tried to find Chifobi to complain about his wife's actions, but he was nowhere to be found. She even went to the beach house where they had partied, hoping to find him. However, it was just a vacation home and always empty. The guards wouldn't even let her reach the gate. During another full moon, there was another beach party at the same house. Amara managed to sneak in, dressed in all white to blend in. During the party, she noticed Chifobi going upstairs. Curious and a bit anxious, she followed him quietly. Reaching the top, she lost sight of which room he had entered. Remembering the last party, she decided to go into the bedroom she had used before, hoping to find him there. Where could he be? Amara whispered to herself as she hesitated at the door, her hand on the knob. A sense of unease gripped her as she opened the door. The bedroom was empty, pulled without reason to a door painted a dark, scary red on her left. She could hear faint humming and chanting from behind the door, a sound both eerie and hypnotic. With her heart pounding in her chest, Amara reached out. Her fingers were trembling as they closed around the doorknob. She turned it slowly, the creaking sound piercing the humming. As the door swung open,